Hi, it's Jerry Roberts back with another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Plague Year. It is Friday, August 28th, and we are talking to our esteemed panel of all-star local journalists, Josh Molina, Nick Welsh, and Delaney Smith. Thanks all for joining us. So the story that will never go away, the coronavirus infection, the numbers are looking a little better. In fact, Josh, you described it as a rosy picture. We're still on the state watch list, however, because we have more than 100 per 100,000 in population cases. However, there are now the applications being prepared in some cases for waivers for elementary school to be able to go back to in-person learning. But neither Goleta Union nor Santa Barbara Unified are going to do that. Josh, why not?
Well, there's a lot of challenges with reopening, and the school districts were ready to do a hybrid plan back in the summer, but then the cases jumped. And so they were told we have to go to distance learning. So they invested a lot into distance learning. And now they would really like to see that play out. They want to see how that works. So far, so good. The students are enjoying it, generally speaking. The teachers are enjoying it, generally speaking. And so they want to go this route. The problem with switching is that there are a number of requirements, most of which are the biggest one is testing, and that they would have to test their staff and their teachers and their employees. And they would have to test 25% of their staff every week. And there's a significant cost associated with that. I don't think anyone knows the exact cost. The county is going to contribute some, but we don't really know how much. The main thing is they have to hire an outside lab. Like, that's part of the condition of reopening. So at Goleta, there was talk of anywhere between $100 to $200 for the test, as well as a little bit of a discount. But that's testing everybody over time. So that's a significant amount that they would have to come up with. Now, they do get CARES money, so they are able to pay for a lot of this, but there's that issue. There's also the issue of just all of the work that it takes to be able to come back with social distancing, with how do you manage that. And so much has gone into the remote learning. Teachers are going to be very frustrated with having to shift gears. And then ultimately, what happens if the cases go back? Are we going to then have to go back to remote learning? Yeah. I know that there's some feeling out there of we would just stay in the schools, but that's not what I heard this week. What I heard this week was we would have to go back to distance learning. And when you're dealing with elementary school kids, I mean, it's one thing, like, intellectually, adults to like talk about open the schools, save distance learning. Like, all of that is like, if you're an adult without kids, you just don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
When you got a child, when you got a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, like, having to tell your child, this is your school today, but this is not going to last, and your school's going to be this, and then say, oh wait, that school's not going to last either. Now you're going to do this again. It's traumatic. They'll never get over it. So I think that some of the prevailing wisdom here is, let's do what's best for stability, continuity, and let's look at the numbers over a longer period. Labor Day's coming up. People feel like there's going to be a spike. So why don't we just stick with what we're doing for now?
So Delaney, I think it was your story where you said Santa Barbara Unified, it was going to cost $180,000 per month for the testing. So, but Kate Ford was the only one who seemed to like be sure about this. Is this, they're just not going to do it? Is that your understanding of the Santa Barbara School Board?
No, because here's the issue though, that here's the missing links, and it happened twice, right? Because Josh was even just talking about something that has already been determined. There's a lot of stuff that's already been determined. The problem is that the message from the county is not getting to the school district somehow, some way. I don't know who is either not receiving it or who is not giving it in a timely
way. That the message being that you are eligible to apply for a waiver now?
That was the first message, right? But then, like Josh was just talking about, will schools close back down if cases
right. So in other words, you go back.
That was already decided. Yeah, it's Board of Supervisors, not this last Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays ago, that was addressed. Vonda Reynoso said that Newsom had already said that it would be traumatic for kids and families to keep closing, opening, and that if in fact a school was granted a waiver and it did get a reopen, if cases did go back and spike again in that community, that school would not close back down. It would remain open. And it would just
so they just have to manage a live pandemic in the school.
Yeah. Right. And but this was more than a week and a half, more than a week by the time the meeting on Tuesday, the school board meeting on Tuesday happened, and the school board members were not aware of this because they were talking about it. And then same thing with the actual testing, right? On Tuesday night, there was so much talk of, we don't know how we'd be able to afford testing. That's just one big obvious block, because yes, like Josh said, we get CARES money, but we're only supposed to get about 10.5 million, and we've already spent almost 8 million of it. So we don't really have a ton left to go through.
Who is we? You talking about the school district or the county?
Santa Barbara Unified School District. Yes, sorry, I don't know why I always refer to it as we. But they have already spent almost $8 million of their about $10 million.
So is it safe to say that at least through the end of this semester that nobody's going back to school?
Yeah, that's definitely probably, I would assume so. But here's the thing though, is again, it's the communication, because none of those board members on Tuesday night were aware of the fact that all 3 of the state testing sites in the county have open testing slots on a regular basis that they said they would be able to dedicate to the school district. And then also the public health department's own 3 clinics can provide 2 hours of testing per day to Santa Barbara Unified staff and teachers that they would do and pay for. So I don't know how much of a dent that would make in our total overall staff, but the point is that, or Santa Barbara Unified's total overall staff, but the point is that none of the board members or apparently the superintendent were aware of that on Tuesday night when they were even discussing the waivers. So there is some huge communication breakdown.
Oh, so great.
Can I just add a little bit there, Jerry?
Let me real quick, and then I want to
just real quick. Tale of 2 meetings: Goleta Unified School District versus Santa Barbara Unified School District, and Goleta Unified School District was a lot more clear on a lot of these things, and Santa Barbara Unified was very confused. The board president for Goleta Unified was on it, had all the answers. They had consulted with the county health department, and they had all the information. They had a representative in the meeting. Tuesday night, the Santa Barbara Unified meeting that Delaney and I both covered, lots of confusion, lots of blame, lots of finger pointing. And by Wednesday, it wasn't like that. So there's definitely some issues of communication. I don't know how Goleta's being communicated with a little bit better than Santa Barbara Unified, but it just goes to this larger narrative of nobody knows what they're doing with COVID, figuring it out as they go.
So maybe it's loose versus Cami, huh? Maybe that's where the. Hey, Nick. So the public health people and Supervisor Hart and everyone, said, oh, things are looking really good, to the extent that Josh's story said, characterized what they were saying as a rosy picture. But I have a feeling, dissent from this view. Certainly your piece about the urgency ordinance that was not voted to be an urgency ordinance, about giving a little bit more enforcement to the county. And you cited the kind of spike at IV as a reason for concern. What was that all about? What was before the board, actually?
What was before the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday was a urgency ordinance, which means you got to have 4 votes at least 4 as opposed to a simple 3-vote majority. And it would have created a very modest fine system, $100, $200, and $500 for depending on how many offenses for people who violate health orders. The focus of it was repeat offender businesses who just refuse to cooperate. There's a gym up in Dilton where it's sort of a live free or die libertarian attitude, and we don't need no stinking badges, and we're going to have gym classes inside. And so that was sort of the germinus for it. What wasn't the germinus was people wearing masks. and it wasn't going to be used to go after people wearing masks. The other thing.
So this was specifically for business that are defying.
This is for businesses who are defying, and it was also for large gatherings. And one of the major applications of this ordinance, which would have given an enforcement tool that wouldn't have been, the guys in the red polo shirts and the khaki pants, and it wouldn't have been a cop with a bulletproof vest. So you don't want a cop with a bulletproof vest and a taser and a gun doing this. So you want to have somebody in between, and that was who they were trying to get, somebody in between who could do this enforcement. Well, UCSB, like a lot of campuses, is about to open. And what we've seen throughout the country so far as college campuses open up, it's sort of a super spreader event.
And college students act like college students.
College students, 18 to 23 years old, the prefrontal cortex has not registered death. It does not register on their screen.
Right. And
so they party. They can't help but party. And so UCSC has a.
Can we let the millennial talk and stop listening to the boomers, please?
So anyway, so so Das of all people wanted to listen to the public health experts, and Joan did, but Greg didn't. I mean, what was how did that break down?
It was a 3-2 vote, and it was Das, Greg, and Joan who were for it, and against it was Peter Adam and Steve Avenino. Now, the public showed up.
He was concerned that this would interfere with people smoking joints, or what?
Government overreach. It was like, and the thing is that they were saying, why are you doing this now when the numbers are coming down? Why are you doing this now when the hospitalizations are coming down? And so the reason I was sort of banging my head against the wall here is that the county, in fact, has done a really good job stumbling along, bringing the numbers down. Santa Maria, where they were really off the charts, they've dropped about 40%. Hospitalizations are significantly down. They're still an issue, but they are down. Everything looks manageable. But then if you have this sort of uncontrollable event that could happen in Isla Vista, and you don't have a clear plan on how it's going to be contained, it seems to me having some sort of an enforcement mechanism, who you don't want enforcing in Isla Vista are sheriffs. Who you don't want going out to the kids in Isla Vista are people with bulletproof vests.
But there should be some enforcement, and soon. Was your Delaney? You want to speak up on behalf of the younger generation? You're the only person under the age of 60 here, I believe. So. Nick just insulted.
I look really good then. Way better than you guys.
Nick just insulted your frontal cortex. Do you want to defend your frontal cortex? I mean, is that true? Is Isla Vista really a clear and present danger to the public safety and health?
Yeah, it is. And Joan is the main, obviously it's in her district, but she's the main supervisor who's concerned about it. The last 2 meetings, she has brought it up and been like, we need to do something about it. And they have a social media campaign going to try to get the kids on board. I don't really know how successful that's going to be, though. I think that it's going to take a little bit of extra effort, but it doesn't really seem to be the way that Josh painted it as a rosy picture. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the general vibe from the rest of the supervisors.
I think in Josh's defense, I think he was describing the way that the
right, that's what I meant. Yeah, is that he described it accurately. Like is that they for the most part do paint it, and for the most part from where we've been, it is starting to look like a rosy picture. I mean, with Santa Maria being, like Nick just said, at 40-something% down, Santa Barbara being 18% down, Lompoc being 20-something% down.
Except the problem is that when people look at that as if the narrative is there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and
right.
Oh, we're past the middle, now we're at the end, but it's not. It's just the beginning and the middle and the middle and the middle. I mean,
totally.
that's
and there's the point that and Greg makes it a lot at press conferences, but he doesn't really at board meetings, which is that we have to still stay vigilant. We can be like, wow, we're making some progress and feel good, but that doesn't mean that now we get to go party in Isla Vista because everything's all okay again.
Well, Delaney, I can tell you've been hanging out with boomer journalists because you're now referring to the people in Isla Vista as those kids. So that's so. All right, on another topic, Josh, we had this, I guess, survey of architects about State Street, downtown State Street closure. Everybody seems to like it. And what was the takeaway from that overall?
Well, most people like the opening of State Street to pedestrians and outdoor dining. There's varying degrees on how many of the blocks should be closed off to cars, but like something like more than 90% like the fact that the city closed what it did so that people can be outdoors. So it's sort of the wave of the future. Many people want housing downtown, so the survey also asked about that. But the biggest thing that I noticed, though, out of that, which is the takeaway for me, is the city of Santa Barbara, the architects are always talking about how people who want to live downtown, these hypothetical, theoretical people who work at tech companies, want to get off work, walk downtown, eat and drink and walk home, and they don't need cars. The survey said something different. It said that like 60% of the people actually would want a car and they'd want it parked near their place. So that is very counter to what the narrative has been about. We don't need to build parking downtown because a lot of these people don't, their lifestyles, they don't use a car. And if they do have a car, they can park it in a city parking lot or something. So that was really interesting to me, that was sort of different. They kind of downplayed that, but I generally think no matter who you are, where you're at, you kind of want a car near where you live, unless you're New York or San Francisco.
Nick, what did you, anything surprise you in that survey? And to what extent do you think the views of architects are aligned with people who actually live here?
In this case, I think, I think everybody loves this sort of idea of downtown. It took 40 years to get here, and it has been a huge hit. I think, when we try to figure out how to make it permanent, it's going to get a little trickier and a little bit more conflicted. I think everybody also thinks in a sort of a general way, we want housing because everybody's sort of told, oh, we have 1/3 as much retail than we can possibly support. We should open up downtown for hundreds of housing spaces and we can really make a dent in what the demand is. The question is, what kind of housing? As Josh mentioned, this whole idea of decoupling parking from housing, which is a nice theoretical construct that Rob Dayton is all about. He's a traffic planner for the city. Maybe one day that'll be the case. I don't think we're there yet. The other question is, how much housing do you have to build to make it pencil out financially? Do you need 4 stories or do you need 3 stories? I think the survey showed people were comfortable if we go up 3 stories. At 4 stories, you start to lose people.
How many feet? So is that 48 feet? What?
45 feet is usually about 4 stories.
How much?
45 feet.
But if I think they're talking about more than that. I think 4 stories.
Restoration hardware project in the press room, RIP the press room, I guess, is bigger than that, isn't it?
Yeah, so that one would be 48 feet. And so downtown, they recently amended the AUD rules so that you could exceed the 45 height limit and go to 48. As we know, on the east side with 711 Milpas Street, they have a development agreement they're working on, and they're going to go as high as 52 feet. So 45 is what it is, but there's some exceptions, of which downtown you can go 48. And that doesn't mean the whole thing's 48, but parts of it will be 48 feet.
Nick, do you feel that the neighbors in the restoration hardware press room neighborhood are going to be all on board with this, or do you think there might be anybody who might possibly object?
Are you fishing for me to suggest that maybe your good friend Wendy P. McCaw and the news press might come out and say, there goes the neighborhood.
Well,
and
they're at 7:15, right? And this is where 7:14 is one of the addresses for the project. So
Yeah,
I mean, they're right in the middle of it. I mean, it's a serious question. I don't, it's a big deal, that project, and it's going to really change things in a way that's, we're not going to go back. So I just wonder whether those who love preservation and historic buildings and so on are going to be on board with this.
It's going to be a wrestling match, and Jim Cannell who is the developer of this proposal, he has been one who has been willing to butt heads with City Hall over color of paint, over lots of different things, and he's very outspoken, and he's not one of the guys who's going to try to catch flies with honey. He's going to be a bruiser in this, and if he comes up against Wendy McCaw, who has been known to throw her weight around a little bit, it's going to be a collision.
All right. Hey, I forgot to ask something about when we were talking about the pandemic. The beaches are going to be closed for Labor Day, huh? They're already saying that?
Yeah, this is actually a really smart move. The county is finally getting its act together here in terms of when it makes an announcement as to when we close. Before the 4th of July weekend, we closed the beaches around here just a couple of days beforehand. And so people out of town who were making plans to come here really didn't have any advance notice. This time they said, you know what, maybe we should do this a couple of weeks in advance. The city council of Santa Barbara made this decree 3 weeks ago, I think, and the county just came out this week. So everybody's going to be on advance notice. Santa Barbara's not the place to come if you're looking for a beach vacation out of town.
Right. And if I read your story correctly, you're allowed to go to the beach and move, i.e. walk, boogie board, and so on, but you can't plop down and read a book. But here's what so are you allowed to do series of asana poses with yoga? So in other words, you're moving, but in the same place. This is very important to me.
I can't believe I didn't ask that question, Jerry. I think he was a plowman. Yeah.
All right. A couple other things. Hey, Josh, this Olive Mill roundabout, that was a weird story. The County Planning Commission and the Montecito Planning Commission all got on the same call, and then they couldn't agree to stay on the call. What the hell was going on with that?
This was like the English Patient, right? This was like so good, but you had to stick to the whole thing.
6 hours?
What? It was 9 hours. It was a 9-hour meeting. Okay. So, and you had Deborah Schwartz, who's the chair of the Santa Barbara Planning Commission. And Deborah is wicked smart. Okay. But she lets you know how smart she is. She talks and talks and talks. And that's not
I know people like that.
But she's got a lot to say. And when she chairs the meeting, she has a platform. And she's very formal. I mean, she brings a lot of class to any meeting she chairs. That being said, these meetings can go really long. So she's going up against the Montecito Planning Commission. And that is a different entity. They're used to doing their own things. They got to the end and they said, we didn't have enough time to talk. And Deborah says, we're not going to be able to work out all the nuances of how we disagree here. Let staff do it. And it turned into this thing that entirely overshadowed the roundabout that's proposed for there. And then in one of the greatest moments ever in covering Zoom meetings, I don't want to name her. I'm not exactly sure who she is, but a woman on the Montecito Planning Commission started talking smack about Deborah on a live mic, right? She's like, it'd be like if, oh my goodness, Nick Welsh, he's so incredible. And then like she's insulting him. And then the city planner comes in, stop. We're gonna call a halt to the meeting. So it was great theater. But here's the thing. The roundabout is proposed for Olive Mill and Coast Village Road, and half of it's in Santa Barbara. The other half of it is in the county. And they're trying to get rid of this 6-pronged sort of intersection and make it flow. As you know, Jerry, I'm sure you've spent a lot of time there during peak hours. Coast Village Road backs up, and it's hell if you're trying to do that. And people try to skip getting on the freeway at Milpas, and they want to go
Yeah,
up Christopher Road.
that was a
So they're
great
trying
story.
to fix all that. It's going to take forever, and it's just quite funny when you have these jurisdictions clashing.
Yeah, I was astonished it didn't make Bill's top 5 this week because that was really amazing. Speaking of weird stuff, your old friend Delaney, Mark McIntyre, is running for city council in Carpinteria on a platform of stopping Black Lives Matter or something. Is that?
He's going to protect Carpinterians from the destruction of anti-fascists and Black Lives Matter.
That's a big problem in Carp.
Yeah, it's the #1 problem in Carp right now. And he's going to protect all of Carpinteria's monuments.
But that looks like a fun
Like
race.
Foster's Trees. Yeah.
With the 3 people for 2 seats. You guys had a little story about it.
Yeah.
So the incumbent mayor and Mark and a young woman, I can't remember her name now, but anyway, we'll keep an eye on that one. Josh, I'm sorry that Onus Donuts is closed. I think the problem is the name. I mean, what does Onus Donuts even mean? I mean, it's just kind of a weird name for a thing.
What is the story behind that?
Nobody bought enough
You know,
donuts.
they own the Cajun Kitchen, and I asked the owner, and he just said it's a name I like. It's a cool name. I thought it sounded good, so that's what he told me. I don't know if he's got some other thing behind it, but it's definitely that sort of place. 400 block of State Street is struggling a little bit. It has always been.
Is that where the Dirty Bookstore is, or is that the 500?
Yeah, that's where it is.
Nick. Yeah. But the 500 block is really booming. It's like the most exciting block in Santa Barbara. And so the ones on the edges of that are suffering. And so just fewer people are going.
So is the 500 block is closed? Said the man who has never been out of his house since March.
Yeah, 500 block, Jerry. You have to get off your bike and walk it.
Oh, okay. I'll keep that in mind. And then the last thing I do want to touch on is the census. Nick, you had a little piece about the numbers are up a little bit, but people really need to send in their census forms, huh?
Yeah, so what's happening now is the door knockers are showing up at people's houses. My house, I had a guy show up.
Yeah, I had a guy too.
Because I think, you know, what happens, you get your census form and you just think it's more junk mail and you toss it. And even though I got repeat notices, I totally tossed all my junk mail.
Yeah, I kept mine. I just haven't filled it out. But the deadline is what? September 30th?
Yeah.
Okay. So fill out your census form.
Absolutely. Because
California's going to lose a congressional seat already. And you
for
know,
every vote, for every head not counted, that's $2,000 of federal dollars not coming to the county of Santa Barbara.
Right. And Trump is obviously trying to scare Latino people who are, you know, to not fill it out.
The Trump angle here is that he moved up the deadline when these has to be turned in by a month. So we have less time to actually process and count and collect the signatures. And the thinking is that what he's hoping to do is expunge from the count people who are not here legally.
Well, he wants to get the control over it, so he wants it all done before he has to leave office.
Right.
And even though we're at 66 days from the election, keep in mind he's still going to have 78 days after the election, no matter what happens on election night, to do God knows what. So, future looks good for the news business. Fake news. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Josh, Nick, Delaney, and we'll see you next week. Everybody stay safe.
Same time. See you.